All right. Well, welcome everyone and congratulations for being here. I am super passionate about this topic we're going to be talking about tonight. And I think that for many people, this is like a game changer. If you can learn how to manage your life, manage your time, manage your energy, that is such a game changer. So I'm super excited for you to be there. I put the links for the worksheets in the chat. I'm looking at the names here. There's a lot of us that are health coaches, and I see a couple of clients. So there's two different versions. If you're a health coach, there's a version that's going to be more Optavia specific. And if you're a client, it's going to be a little more generic. So just, you can go either way with this. The fundamentals are going to be the same either way. So I want to start off with a question. Raise your hand or put a 2 in the chat if you wish there was more hours in the day. A lot of hands going up. Yeah. And, I think a lot of people, when they're feeling like their life is busy, they're a little bit out of control. Let me share a little visual. I posted this on my Facebook page. Maybe some of you guys saw this. Did you see this post? Girl riding a unicycle, juggling her coffee, her computer, her files, her phone. And you feel like you're just like overwhelmed because you're trying to juggle too many things, right? So one of the things I want to ask you to put in the chat here, and that actually we're going to actually have a little bit of interaction. We're going to do a couple of breakout sessions where you're going to get with somebody, you're going to share. But the first thing I want to ask you to do is, what are some of the issues and challenges you have relating to time management? And then secondarily, type that in the chat. I want to get a feel for what's going on in your world. And secondarily, what emotionally comes up when you think of those issues or challenges? For me, I'll share is the hardest thing for me that I have to deal with is unexpected things. Unexpected, like I'm really planning things out and all of a sudden something unexpected happens and I have to deal with that. That's hard. And that sometimes stress me out. I did a Facebook Live about that about a week ago when all these things started, unexpected things happening. Jill says, I really like sleeping. So that means you're sleeping in too much and then it takes away some of your active daytime. Okay, got it. Antoinette says, keeping up with my schedule or trying to do too much. Yes, that's the juggling. Leslie, taking care of myself, put my stuff last. That makes me feel stressed and upset. Yeah. So it's very easy to be, caretaker, giver, helper, and in service of everyone else, but not taking care of ourselves. And then we burn out. That's what happens, I think, there. Sue says being distracted and then becoming overwhelmed. Yep. Balancing everything. Okay, well, let's talk about this because, in reality, we all have the same 24 hours. We all have the same 168 hours per week. We all have the same 365 days per year. But in Dr. A's life book, one of the things he talks about is that mason jar. You remember that mason jar example right at the beginning? And you got those big boulders, and if you put them in first, then you can make room for the pebbles and the sand and the water, and you have room for that. But if you're too busy taking care of pebbles and sand, then the big boulders don't make it in, and then that really hurts. And that really can break relationships, that can break integrity. That's where you start feeling like, frustrated. So I really want to focus today. On the worksheet, you'll see that it says life and priority management. I think it's easier to manage priorities than it is to manage time. Okay. And if you can get really good at that, so I'm going to share with you what's worked for me. And I'm going to share kind of two big areas. Number one is some fundamental principles. And principles are timeless. They're universal. They are super predictable. And I'm also going to share some strategies. And strategies or systems or tactics. There's the how-to, tools, resources, the actions. It's more on the ground. Principles are like universal. They don't change. So I'm going to share both of those. We'll start with some principles because they're important, because if you don't have the right principles, the techniques don't work. How many have ever, put a 3 in the chat if you've ever bought a fancy planner, a book or some kind of special fancy planner, And after a couple of weeks, it was just like sitting there collecting dust and it wasn't working, right? So it's the tools are great, but the system, the philosophy is important too, the principles. So I'm going to talk a little bit about first principle is about habits. I love habits and routines. I have date night with Jazzy, a date night with Marina, I have a date night with my mom. I do these things that I get into a rhythm with, and that helps me stay on track. I have morning power. So these rituals and habits and rhythms, they've really served me. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So really looking at your habits and your routines and your rituals, that's important. Another important one I wanted to point out that you guys have probably heard before, but it's the 80-20 rule, right? 80-20 rule. What does that mean? Well, it means 80% of the results you get come from only 20% of your actions. So if you're busy chasing down the 80% of your actions that are only worth 20% of the results, you're chasing pebbles. So I really want you to start learning how to find what are those 20%, what are those big important things that are that you prioritize. So here's another little phrase that I've found is true. Less is more. Less is more. Keep it simple. And when that comes, when you start looking at identifying what are those 20% activities, what are those 20% tools and resources and things that I can do that make the big, big impact, then you need to learn this next phrase, which is how to say no. How to say no to the right things, and so you can say yes to the right things. Okay, so this is all about prioritization. In Optavia, we have principles. In Optavia, we have the habits of transformational leadership. We call them the hot six. And you know what that first one is? We lead from the future and we act in the now, right? That's a principle. So if you're getting ready to start any project, what do you want to do? You want to visualize the successful outcome in advance. You want to lead from the future. And then you act in the now from that place, right? There's another great little quote that's from Carol Lewis. She says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, right? And so that's where I find a lot of people is they don't have clear goals. They don't have clear vision of their destination. So they're bouncing around and they're reacting to life. The circumstances of life control their calendar, not them intentionally. So like we've done the workshop before a couple of weeks ago, we did the workshop on goal setting, which is designing your life with intention, consciously creating your healthy body, healthy mind, healthy finances, specific goals. So this is part of it, is really being that kind of leader that leads from the future and acts in the now. And I'm going to pop in, who's ever heard of or read the book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Anyone? No? Oh my gosh, this is a classic, you guys. This is a classic. I'm going to put his 7 habits in there. Heard of it? Okay, got to get it. And they have it on audio too. Sue's read it. Very good. Yes. So the first habit is to be proactive. That's a principle, right? Be proactive, not reactive. The second habit is begin with the end in mind, which is lead from the future, basically. The third habit is put first things first. This is all about prioritizing, right? The next habit is more of a relational one. It's like think win-win. How do you think win-win and create win-win in your relationships? The fifth habit, I love this one. It's relationship oriented. It's seek first to understand, then to be understood. So it's that empathetic lifestyle that we teach at Optavia, how to be empathetic, how to seek first to understand somebody else, then you can be understood yourself. And then the sixth habit is to synergize, learn about synergy. How when you're working with somebody, you're collaborating effectively, you can create synergy, which is 1 + 1 = 11 instead of 1 + 1 = 2, right? And the last one is another principle that's super important. It's like what we're doing right now is habit number 7, which is sharpening the axe. Sharpening the axe is that idea that if you get better at something, you'll be more efficient, you'll be more effective, right? Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 6 hours sharpening my axe. Because if you're chopping down a tree with a dull axe, it's a waste of time, a waste of energy, right? We kind of have a similar philosophy. Like, to sharpen the axe is like mentally sharpen your axe, get your skills, improve your mindset, improve your tools. It's like always try to get better. We have that habit number 3 in Optavia. We seek growth and we embrace the obstacle as the way. So we seek growth. So you look at going into these kind of environments. And I'll say one more little thing. I'm firing off some of my favorite quotes here, but there's a quote from Eric Hoffer. He said, in the times of rapid change that we currently live in, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned are perfectly equipped to a world that no longer exists. So what's that principle? The principle is be a learner. Like, be a person who is not fixed in their mindset, but they're always getting better. They're always saying, how can I get better? How can I get better? How can I get better? So those are some of the principles that we'll be leaning on today. Let me give you, we're also going to go into some very specific strategies and tactics. And that's the how-to, it's the approach, it's the actions, it's the tools, it's the systems. And one thing that I will tell you this, I love about my life management approach is I only need 3 simple things. Actually, I'll put them in I'll put 4 things actually. I'll put it in the chat for you. Number 1, I have a legal pad, 8.5 by 11 legal pad for taking notes and creating my lists. Number 2, pen or pencil. Number 3, 3x5 card. And number 4, I have my calendar on my computer and my phone synced through Google Calendars. And I live by my calendar. My calendar is my most important tool for life management. It's almost to the degree that if it's not on the calendar, it may not get done. But if it's on the calendar, it almost always gets done. But I'm going to talk a lot about calendar management because that's where I put my priorities. That's where I put my priorities. So you guys ready to take charge and be the CEO of your life? Who books your calendar? We do, right? So that's the thing. It's like, take charge, be the CEO, book your own calendar, make your own life. So grab your worksheets because we're going to start going through them right now. Before I do, I'm gonna just start with the top with the process. Make sure that you guys just understand the basic steps of the process. So the first step, we call it take aim, which means awaken your intrinsic motivation. So if somebody has a goal, what we find is super important is that goal is driven by their values, intrinsic motivation, right? So if you are a coach, you know it's your business goal. There's 4 competencies. You look at what's the next goal that you want to reach as a business coach. If you're a client, I would encourage you to just ask the question, what are my goals and intentions for the week or for the month? And so these goals kind of become a North Star. And I recommend that you take the approach that we teach in Optavia, which is your goals to be trilogy goals: healthy body, healthy mind, and healthy finances. Have goals in each category. But now those goals help to be a filter to see what's important. Like, where do I put my time? Where do I put my energy? Because I have some goals. I have a destination. I have a place to go. So that means these things are off track. They're not a priority. Let me get to them later. Let me put them on the back burner, right? So having your goals is super important. So if you're an Optavia coach, you're going to go from a senior coach to executive director, from executive director to fully integrated business coach. Or when you're a fully integrated business coach, your next goal is to be FIBL, fully integrated business leader. And so you want to describe that goal on the little sheet. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to start writing these things out. What's important to you? What does it look like? The actual tangible goal. And then the why is it important? So it's important to have both what you want and why you want it. Now, I will say this, I'm going to be moving pretty quickly tonight because I want to get this done within an hour. And my goal and my intention is to empower you with the principles and the strategies and some tools that you can go and you can make this your own, and you can take a little more time with it. You can flush it out, maybe getting with your mentor or your coach, your health coach, your business coach to flush this out. But I want to make sure that you walk away with some really tangible, functional tools. Okay. So step one is to take aim. Where am I going? What's important to me and why? Step two is to check in. Where am I starting from? What's my current reality? And I also kind of want to look at our patterns. So if you're a coach, you know that in Optavia, we track certain things. What's your rank, your volume, how many clients you have, things like that, how many coaches you have, you're going to track those things. If you're a client, you're going to want to look at what am I doing with my week? What am I doing with my calendar? So I'm going to ask everyone to do this exercise with me. And we call this the 168-hour exercise. And here's how it works. On a blank piece of paper, you're going to start with sleep. You're going to draw a line. And you're going to put how many hours of sleep you get per night on average. And you're going to multiply that by 7. Next, we're going to go to work. So if you have a day job, put work and put how many hours a week do you get in work, put into work. Next, we're going to go to personal. Now, let's start with fitness. How many hours per week do you put into your fitness? And it might do it like daily, like I do, I do an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week. I mean, that gives you your total. So you want to have a total for the week in all these categories. So we started with sleep, and we went to work, and we're in fitness. Now we're going to put family. How many hours a day do you put into your family time? And then how many days a week? Is it 7 days a week? Is it 5 days a week? And then you get that total number. So you're asking you guys to do a little math here. Next, put spiritual. Are you going to church? Are you doing Bible studies? Are you doing meditation? What's your spiritual? How many hours a day? How many days a week? And get a total. If you work somewhere where you have a commute, put that down. I know a lot of us work from home, even Leslie, a lot of us work from home, so that's a big savings. But if you have a commute, put that in there. If you're an Optavia coach, put in how many hours a day you work your Optavia business and how many days a week times that number of days per week, and then get your total. Okay, so we've talked about family, we've talked about spirituality, we've talked about fitness, we've talked about work, we've talked about sleep, we've talked about these big boulders, right? The big priorities that we talk about in life. If there's anything else that's a big boulder for you, write it down. If there's like Jill, for example, I know that horses are big in your world. You probably put in hours a week. So write down, horse time, and then how many hours a day and how many days a week, and add that up. You guys all with me? Any questions? So right now you've added up your big commitments in the week, and I want you to add up that total number, that weekly number, the sleep, the fitness, the work, the Optavia work, all that stuff. You're going to add that up, and you're going to subtract it from 168. And what does that give you? When you add up all the hours that you're dedicating to those major priorities, and then you subtract it from the number of hours in a week, which is 168, what does that give you? Someone come off mute, tell me.
I have 65 hours left.
There you go. So that's 65 hours of unaccounted for time. Now, is that time being used? Yes, it's probably used on social media, on Netflix. It's going to be used with, the pebbles, right? So you have to start looking at, okay, where am I spending time that's not valuable. And another thing to look at is, what is my time worth? So one of the exercises on step 2 was to figure out what's your hourly income. And if you're, let's say you get paid, if you're an Optavia coach and you have, pretty good business, you're going to be probably earning between, $75 and $100 an hour, because we get paid really well to do Optavia. So if you figure that out and you say, okay, right now I'm getting paid $75 an hour and I'm spending 10 hours a week on housekeeping. What if I got somebody to do half of the housekeeping for me and paid them $25 an hour? I'm still netting $50 an hour. If I take that 10 hours and I invest in my Optavia business, or I invest into something else that's more important, it could be well worth it. So that's why it's important to know your hourly income and to say, what am I spending my time on? Where am I investing my time? Every hour costs you that, right? That you could be investing into something else, your family, your health, your business, other things. So keep an eye on your hourly income and start paying attention to that. Then we're going to go to step 3. How you guys doing so far? You all with me? Any questions? So
Yeah, it's
slow down.
great, Greg. You're doing great. I think it would be nice to see the forms while you go through this for me. If someone's watching it in review, I don't know. It's your call. It's going great though. It was a little shocking to see the hours. I need to get blocking my time. Thank you.
Yeah. And so if you don't know the formula, I kind of put it there on the form. The formula is to take your total monthly income, which is going to be your bonus and your weekly income from Optavia, add that up, divide it by the number of hours you're working per week, and then divide that by 4 for 4 weeks per month. And that'll give you your hourly income with Optavia. Most people that have a day job, they know their hourly income. They just take their salary, divide by the number of hours they work, or they get paid hourly.
Is that on here? Is that on the form? Did you show that? I don't see that on this form.
Yeah,
I've seen the exercise.
I think it's number C. It says total
Optavia total monthly income. Oh, got it.
Yeah. Okay. Also for Optavia coaches, it's good to compare your Optavia income from your day job income, because that can surprisingly rock your world and give you some motivation there. Okay, we're going to go to step number 3, which is, this is one of my favorites. Eliminate distractions and create space. So if you're looking at your calendar and you say, okay, well, I got these 65 hours, what am I doing with it? Well, I know one thing you're doing, Leslie, that we didn't ask about, which was gaming. I know you love to game. That's one of your things. If that's a priority, block it in, like make it a block, but don't do it unconsciously, right? Don't do it unconsciously. So what I want you guys to do in this next little exercise is we're going to start making a list of things that are wasting our time. Okay. And I'm going to have you get into a breakout session with a buddy, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to share with you something that I think is super cool. This is again from Stephen Covey. And this is part of his 4 quadrants. In the book, Stephen Covey talks about the 4 quadrants. And the quadrants are, number 1 is it's urgent and important. Quadrant number 2, it's not urgent, but it's important. Quadrant number 3 is it's urgent and not important. And quadrant 4 is it's not urgent and it's not important. Okay. So in the world of priorities, making the first thing first and focusing on what's most important, you really want to focus on these top 2 ones, right? What's important and whether it's urgent or not. Quadrant 2 is tricky because, see, if it's not urgent, but it's important, that would be sharpening the axe. That's like planning. That's like doing long-term projects. That's like studying. That's like, going to the gym. It's not urgent, but it's important, right? The things we end up probably doing the most are quadrant 1 because they're urgent and important, and they're like, sometimes they're issues, they're concerns, emergencies, crisis, and you got to get stuff done. It's due today. Like there's a deadline, right? It's urgent. So we easily fall into urgent in quadrant 1. We also fall into urgent in quadrant 3, which is it's not important. It's interruptions, distractions. That's where we're going to focus most on quadrant 3 and 4 is what do we do with, how do you deal with these different quadrants? So on your worksheet, there's 4 Ds. And the first D is if something comes up and it's important, do it. If something comes up and it's important, but it's not urgent, delay it, schedule it, put it on your to-do list, put it on your calendar for another time. If something comes up and it's important, but not urgent, or it's something that you can delegate, that's leverage. So anytime it's something that you can delegate to somebody else, that saves you what? Time, energy, and focus. And then the 4th D is really for that 4th quadrant, delete it. It's a time waster. It's busy work. It's procrastination. It's scrolling on social media. So we really want to delete those things. So that's our next exercise is we're going to go into the worksheet and it says list 3 to 5 of your biggest time wasters. So I want you to go ahead and start doing that. On that worksheet, list out what are some of your biggest time wasters. Write them down. And once you identify the time waster, I would encourage you to try to find what's the healthy alternative. So I'll give you an example. If Netflix binging is a time waster, then a healthy alternative might be journaling, might be listening to a Optavia podcast or a training, right? So think about those time wasters, write them down. And then I'd like you to write down at least an idea for a healthy alternative, something that you could replace it with that would be healthier. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to give you a couple minutes. I'm going to create some breakout rooms. We have 6. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so keep going. Put a 1 in the chat or put a 3 in the chat when you've got at least 3 of your big time wasters identified. Okay, Cheryl's done. I would bet that some of us would put social media on there, scrolling social media. I would bet some of us would put, sometimes it's conversations with people that are like distracting you. Sometimes you don't have boundaries. That's a big one for a lot of people. They don't have boundaries. What's another one? TV, like, so news, getting stuck into the news, the drama, that doesn't improve your life. It just brings your hormones and stresses you out, right? It's like getting sucked into news or those addictive shows, these different, series on Netflix, things like that. There's lots of things that can distract us. Okay, so a couple of you guys are done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you into your rooms, and I want you to answer these 3 questions. So I'm going to match you up. You'll get matched up with somebody. And the first question you're going to ask is, you're going to share, what is my distraction? Share at least 1 or 2 of your biggest distractions. Second thing I want you to share is, what is it costing me? What is it costing me? Time, emotion, money? What is the consequence of me allowing this distraction to be in my calendar, to be a part of my life? And third, what would be a healthy alternative? What's something you can switch to that would be a better use of your time and energy? Okay, so I'm going to be popping this on. As soon as I do, you're going to get an invitation to a breakout room. All I got to do is say accept. It'll put you in that breakout room, and then you'll be with your buddy. And whoever has the shortest hair will go first, and whoever has the longest hair will go second. and you're going to share three things. What's my distractions? What are they costing me? At least one or two. And what's a healthy alternative? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes each, and then we'll be back in the meeting room in the grand hall in just a few minutes. Okay, go.
Oh, so if we got kicked out, we would have automatically just been back here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's watch. They'll
Oh.
all come flooding in right now because when it shuts down, they come back automatically.
We could have used our last 30 seconds, Cheryl.
No, we blew it.
I
But
think
you
we
ended
packed
it-
a lot in.
You ended it well.
We
Most
ended it well.
definitely.
Well, we still have a little time. We're actually going to do a little group share now. So, because this is such an important piece, I really want to give it some time. If there was only one thing you did from this workshop is learn how to eliminate distractions, how powerful would that be? If that was the
Powerful.
only thing you did, right?
Very
Um,
powerful.
If you have,
Yes.
let me give you a little tool. If you haven't heard of the book, it's called Indistractable. It is a game changer. When I watched the Social Dilemma, the documentary, The Social Dilemma, and saw how addictive social media was designed for it to be to us and how many people are like losing their life to it, I was really bummed until I read that book and I saw, oh, there's the antidote. This is the antidote. It's called Indistractable. So let's talk about it. Just airing it, just owning these distractions and speaking about them can be powerful. So I'd like to hear a couple people who'd be willing to share What was your big distraction that you're committing to eliminate, and what's it costing you, and what are you going to do to replace with a healthier behavior? Who'd be willing to share? Go for it, Lori. Unmute yourself, please.
Hey, one of my biggest distractions is television because it's the time I spend with my husband. And so, but I'm realizing that as I did that hours thing, that was bad. I could be listening to more podcasts and reading books. I have like this huge list of books that I have heard forever, and I have the list, but I don't have the books. So I'm going to be intentional to get some of the books and work on not watching television.
Beautiful. Thank you. Good one. Sherry Marks.
And we were actually in the breakout room together. We've actually know each other, so we were like laughing. We've gotten to know each other conventions. So knowing that we probably had some conversations, we asked each other, why don't we do a partner accountability, which we used to do. We've had that, and then we had a thing where Greg used to give us like for the next 15 minutes, we're going to do this, and so we're gonna chat with each other afterwards and follow up and hold each other accountable, because we do have similar. I mean, I'm not into the movies, but the Facebook stuff, the social media. So we're gonna work with each other on that because we both have that same distraction.
I love it. Having a buddy, having accountability to do something that it's not easy to do, or to stop from doing something that you don't want to do, is really powerful. Because just like making a public commitment here, even on this Zoom, is powerful. But then you got to follow up with it, right? One thing you can do is you can make it into a game. You can gamify it. You can give yourself rewards and penalties if you don't do it. So like if you want to get really good with your accountability, guys, you could create some little fun incentives, positive things if you do follow through, and then some negative consequences if you don't. You know, you've heard the one where if somebody has a jar in the house where if somebody curses, they put $1 in. Those little things work.
I was going to say, Lori, let's put some skin in the game.
Do it. Do it. I encourage that. Anyone else be willing to share and courageous enough to put it out there and say, hey, here's one thing I'm really letting go of. Go for it, Leslie. And then Leslie first, and then Rosa.
Okay. One of the things I kind of talked about was a lot of times I'll just sit around and not do anything. And as opposed to I'm just kind of sitting to revitalize, but just not taking care of anything at all and just kind of vegetating. So one of the things that I started doing, and I mentioned this to Cheryl, I have a huge bookcase in my room that I've been meaning to go through and just kind of, keep, donate, trash. So I said, okay, today I'm not feeling well, but that doesn't mean I can't get something done. So I said, I'm going to go sit on the floor. I'm going to take that bottom shelf, and I'm just going to do that one bottom shelf instead of just sitting here doing nothing.
Beautiful. It's such a good thing because it's a win-win. It's shifting you away from wasting time into something that's productive. And once you clean your environment, once you actually declutter things, less is more. It frees up a lot of psychic energy. It really just feels good. Who would agree with that? Like getting a closet, getting a drawer, getting something just good. So that's a good one, Leslie. Rosa, you're the last one. Go for it.
Hello. So I was talking with Cynthia that one of the things I feel is scrolling in social media, because you see like one more, and then you see the time and like, I could have been doing A to C in this time, like, oh my, like 20 minutes went by already. So I was telling her, I think there is a way to turn off the notifications. So that way I won't know that, I'm getting these distractions. And whenever I have my time for checking them, I go look at them. That's it. So
Beautiful.
I think that will help me be more productive.
Beautiful. So you mentioned two important things. One is it's a super hack is to turn off notifications, because that's how the technology is designed to get you hooked on dopamine, to want to check the lights, to check the things like that. So turn off that. Second thing is you found an alternative. Instead of scrolling, you're going to do A to Z. So that's a healthy behavior. That is intentional. That's building relationships. That's on purpose for you, for your business, for your friends, etc. So that's a good one, Rosa. Thank you. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next stage. The next step is step 4, which is to create your ideal week. Now you can do it on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Just put Monday through Sunday at the top, draw a line down, and on the left, you put the times, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. You can make your own little weekly calendar, or you can use this one that I included in the worksheet, which is, Monday through Sunday, got from 6 to 11. If you're going to get your 7 or 8 hours of sleep, you're going to want to wake up optimally. If you wake up a little early, you can get your morning routine going, and then you can get to bed at a reasonable time and you can get a good night's sleep. So we really want to target that we do take care of our sleep. It's a habit of health. It's one of our boulders. And what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you a couple of important concepts. So this is on the worksheet as well. These are important concepts to practice. Number one, the first one is called block time. People have been tricked into thinking that multitasking is a good thing. Multitasking is a terrible thing. It wastes a lot of energy, a lot of efficiency. You're going to get on a roll. If you want to get on a roll and get into flow, you need to focus on one thing and get good at it. So if you're going to be making phone calls, make phone calls. If you're going to do emails, do emails. If you're going to do power hour, do power hour. Don't get distracted. Don't chase the shiny objects. So block time is when you have a single focused thing and you put that in your calendar. You block it out. You say, this time is reserved for follow-ups. This time is reserved for power hour. This time is reserved for yoga. This time is reserved for family time. You put those things in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put those big blocks in first. You're going to get your non-negotiables, your big priorities in your calendar first. Okay. Your sleep. One of the biggest things that can be a powerful tool is your morning and evening ritual. That 1 hour before you go to bed and that 1 hour when you wake up in the morning. If you take control of those 2 hours, the rest of your day is going to flow. So really I strongly encourage you put in right after your sleep, put in your morning and evening rituals. For me, my evening ritual is I do a little bit of meditation, and Marina and I do our gratitude. We have a little gratitude rock, and it comes from this little book, and we say what are the 10 things we're most grateful for, and we go to bed with gratitude in our hearts. First thing in the morning, I wake up, I break my fast, I have my Optavia fueling. I do my what I call my magic to-do list, and I put we're going to talk about that in a second. That's my morning rituals. I do my magic to-do list. I do some breath work. I do a little bit of exercise, and I jump on power hour. I mean, I feel empowered, and I start my day off with those things, and I feel like I'm controlling the day because I have my list. I know it's a priority, and we're going to talk about that in a second. That's actually step number 7. Next thing is to be intentional with creating space. When you're filling in your calendar, I never book meetings back to back. I always give myself 15 minutes in between meetings so I can have a feeling, go to the bathroom, finish my notes. Even if I'm doing client support calls, I'll block out like 3 hours. 3 hours on Monday and 3 hours on Tuesday. But I did give myself a little bit of flexibility in between because I don't want to be stressed out. I don't want to run from one call to the next and be all tattered. I want to enjoy the process. So another thing to put space in your calendar is if you've got an appointment somewhere, put the drive time in there, block in, drive to yoga. I put that in there. I put more than enough time so I don't have to rush. So when you get your calendar, start working your calendar. Part of what you're going to put in there is you're going to put in space. You're going to leave openings so you're not stressed out. Okay. Another important concept, this is especially for people that work from home, is to have what we call store hours. If you're an entrepreneur, it's easy to be working at 11:30 at night and it's killing yourself, and that's not healthy. And that if you burn out, then you're not going to be getting good to anyone. So just like a store owner, hey, my store opens for Optavia, my store opens at 9:30 and it closes at 7. And I have also, sometimes I'll make space in the day for yoga if that's the only time I can get it in there. I try to do, now the other thing about store hours is you need to open by a certain time and close by a certain time. You need to have your breaks, your lunch breaks, your fueling breaks and all that. But there's this next concept called prime time. And prime time means there's a certain time of the day that you're going to be at your best. And there's a certain time of the day that you're going to have the access to be able to connect with people. So if I were to do all my client support calls at from 8 to 10 a.m., I wouldn't get a hold of anybody. Right? But if I do it from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, I can get a hold of most people. So it's like, what is the prime time? What's the best time that you're at your best and that you can do what you need to do, especially if you're a coach, you're relating to other people. Okay. And the next thing is I want to give you a contrast between structure and flexibility. So you want to honor the structure of your calendar, but don't be so rigid that you beat yourself up, because things happen. So if I'm planning to do, let's say even Power Hour, if I'm planning on doing Power Hour live from 8 to 9 a.m., but something happens and it's like a snowstorm and I got to clear the driveway so I can get Jazzy to school or something, I will push it off. I will change my calendar. I'll say, okay, I'm going to listen to the recording at 10 a.m. after I get my stuff done. So you just don't delete your priority, but be flexible where you might need to shift it around. Okay. So it's this balance between structure and flexibility. And the last couple things here is that there's a good rule of thumb. If you have a project that you want to move forward, or if you want to move your Optavia business, is touch your business every day. Touch the project every day. Don't let it get cobwebs, you know? If you keep it doing, even if you're only 30 minutes, you know, an hour a day, keep it moving, keep your project going. For example, if you had a bigger project, Leslie, than just that one bookshelf, you know, if you had like, you're going to redo the whole garage, don't force yourself to have to do it all in one day and stress out. But what if you could do like 30 minutes a day, you know, for 7 days? That could be a little more manageable. So kind of like the old philosophy is, what's the best way to eat an elephant? You know, when you got a big project, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. But be consistent. Be consistent. Consistency is key. Okay, so step 5 is we're going to be putting in those big boulders: your sleep, your family time, your date nights, your personal development. You're reading your Optavia books. You're going to be reading your life book. You know, we want to put that in there. You want to check in. You want to have your Monday night calls, the community time with Optavia. You want to have that in your calendar. And any of these things that you can, make them reoccurring appointments. Okay. And if you do that, what you do is when you go into a calendar appointment, maybe I'll just show you guys one of mine. Let's see here. Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Share my calendar and I'll show you guys what I mean. So my wake and shake, that's my morning. Starting my morning ritual, have my wake and my shake, my breakfast, my gratitude, and my magic to-do list. This is a repeating appointment, and it repeats every week. Okay, so it repeats every week from that time to that time. My energy warrior, my physical warm-up that I do in the morning, my Wim Hof breath, my knees over toes, and my shoulder workout, that repeats every week as well. Power hour, it repeats every day. Right? So you can make these appointments reoccurring. I have a power hour in the afternoon that I do. So I do power hour in the morning and power in the afternoon. And in the middle, I have time for my appointments. So does that make sense? If you've got these big boulders, you know, if it's church, it's, you know, 11 a.m. on Sunday, repeats weekly. If it's going to be something that's daily, repeat it daily. Sometimes it could be monthly, repeat it monthly. But whenever you have these boulders in there, try to get them in your calendar and get them to repeat so that you get reminders that are popping in there, telling you, hey, it's time to get ready for that, time to get ready for power hour, time to get ready for your next appointment. I always give myself like a 10 or a 15-minute reminder alarm. So it pops in and says, okay, you got a little bit of time to get ready before your next appointment. Okay, the last couple things I want to talk about are step number 7 is tending the garden. Tending the garden. So if you've got your mind and you think of it as a garden, and if you've got too many things on your mind, how many of you find sometimes it's hard to sleep at night? Because too much clutter in your mind, right? So a great way to declutter your mind is called a mind dump. It's like pulling the weeds. And it's like if you had like 20 different programs on your computer open, you know how you're going to use up all your battery and you're going to use up all your RAM and your computer could crash. Well, the same with your mind. So what I do is if I have a bunch of stuff on my mind, I don't need to do this a lot because I really take good care of my mind. I don't really overcommit. But if I ever feel overwhelmed, This is a formula for solving overwhelm. Okay. Take out your 8.5 by 11 sheet. You put everything that's on your mind on that piece of paper. You just dump it out. Got to call this, got to buy this, got to take this, got to do that. I've got to, you know, all the projects, all the things you need to do, get them out, get them on piece of paper. Now, once you get them off a piece of paper, first thing that happens is it's kind of like closing all the windows on your computer, because now you've got it out of your mind. It's on paper. It's going to be there in the morning. So you don't have to think about it anymore. You've captured it. Does that make sense? So it frees up this psychic energy by just putting them down and on paper. Next thing you want to do before you go to bed is you want to circle the top 10 most important things. Why do you do that? Well, because you're going to prioritize. You're putting what first things first. You're prioritizing the things that are important, and it gives your subconscious mind a chance to work on it over the night while you're sleeping. So you identify those top 10 things. Next thing is get out your 3x5 card and transfer up to 7 things from those top 10 up to 7 on your 3x5 card. And you could just put, like, I like the idea of the magic to-do list, because in the book, the magic, they tell you to not just write down your to-dos, but say thank you, like see them happening successful, and like have gratitude for your to-do list before it's even done. So I call it the magic to-do list. So I say, okay, I'm going to do power. Thank you for all the great people I'm going to meet on power. I'm going to do a call with Leslie. I'm going to do her check-in. Thank you for celebrating all of her wins this week. And so I'm thanking in advance. I'm putting gratitude into my to-do list. The reason we only keep it up to 5 to 7 is because that's how much the mind can really handle. And if you get those things done and you check them off as you go, how does it feel when you check something off your list? Right? It's like a boost of energy, right? Yes, check, done, done, done. And if it's a priority, if it's that 20% stuff that makes the 80% results, if it's a priority, it feels even better. Even if you only get like 3 to 5 of your big boulders done for the day, you can go to bed feeling pretty dang good, right? If you don't get them done, just transfer them to the next day. And what I've also found is if there's something that keeps not getting done, check in. Maybe it's not that important. Maybe it's really not a priority. Maybe I'm procrastinating because it's really not a priority. But if you do get all 7 of those things done, flip over your 3x5 card to start another list if you still have more stuff to do. Okay, so that is tending the garden, getting your priorities, getting your actions, keeping your focus during the day. And this is a way for you to prioritize and make sure that you put first things first. You get things done that are most important. The last thing is about accountability and mentoring. You guys mentioned this with you, Lori and Sherry, kind of talking about it, but have a monthly action plan. All these four weeks add up to what? A month. If you want to have a goal, you want to have a great year, you have 12 good months. You want to have a good month, you have 4 great weeks, right? So have a monthly plan, because if you just set your goals day by day, it's a little bit, you're in the weeds, you know? You need to step back a little bit, have a monthly goal, have a 3-month goal, and you want to have your year-long goal as well. But having accountability for coaches, we know we check our numbers. We see, okay, how many new clients did I get this month? How many new clients do I want to get? You know, am I on track? You check in mid-month. You check in with your coach, you set your goals, you hold them accountable, you ask them for mentorship. Hey, what do I need to do differently? What do I need to say? How do I get, better at doing health assessments, right? So this is part of it, is the accountability. So make sure, number one, if you're not a coach, have a conversation with your family, enroll them in your vision, enroll them in your goals, enroll them into the things you're trying to do. It's like, let them be part of it. If you are a coach, same with that. If you have family members, enroll your kids into the vision of, hey, when mommy does really good, we're going to get to go on this trip. You know, if I build my Altavia business, I can afford to take you to Disneyland. You know, you can build the family into it, and you can have that accountability and have it be fun. Gamify it, make it fun, keep it simple. I mean, this is the simplest time management system I've ever seen, and it works. And I'm really grateful because somebody taught me some tools, and I've read some books and I've taken some courses and stuff like that. And I got some good principles, but boy, some of these things were so complicated that just managing the system itself was overwhelming. This is something I can do in minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, 5 minutes in the morning, boom. I'm managing my day, managing my hours, managing my priorities. And if you manage your priorities, you look back on a life and you have a life well lived, because you put your energy into things that matter most, you know. And don't be ashamed to put a priority down if it's snowboarding. Tomorrow morning, I'm going snowboarding because it's going to be fresh snow and I earned it, right? Tomorrow evening, I'm going to go to yoga. I'm not going to feel guilty about it. These are the things that keep me balanced, keep me healthy. So, but if they're priorities, get them on the calendar. Does that make sense? All right. Let's take one last minute before we close up. And anyone who wants to share either a commitment that they're committed to, or a takeaway, something that they're grateful that they learned, or something that they just want to share, well, this is a farewell before we call it out. Who would like to kind of close us off with a couple comments, commitments, or ahas or shares?
I'll come off, Greg.
Okay, go for it, Cheryl.
I remember when I hit senior coach about a year and a half ago, and you and I had this phone call and you talked to me about store hours with my other business. And I had never heard that terminology outside of, a brick and mortar store hours. And that, along with my Google Calendar, has changed my life tremendously just by having boundaries. Now it's not perfect by any means, but I don't stay up answering Airbnb inquiries till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning anymore. I cut it off, and my clients, they know. So thank you for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. That just brought back your life. I mean, now you get to have a life.
Yep.
Congratulations. Thank you for sharing, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Who else? Jill, go for it.
Oh, okay. So as you were talking about time wasters, I realized that where I live, it's kind of a standing joke. Everything is an hour away. So we have a lot of car time. And when I ride with my husband, I let him pick what we're going to listen to on the radio or what podcast or whatever. Well, it doesn't always have to be him. I can pick stuff that will be beneficial for both of us and for our business. I mean, he is actually a health coach with me, but he doesn't actively participate. But yet there's some stuff out there that we could both benefit from. And I need to be a little more proactive about saying, hey, okay, enough of this political stuff, enough of that. Let's listen to something that might help us grow. So thank you. What you said, which was it? I think it was the 7 Habits you said was on audio. So
Yeah.
That's one I think I'm going to put on my list next.
Books on audio is such a great use for, being on the road, podcasts, you're driving.
Oh yeah.
Such
yeah.
a good, sharpen your axe, go to the University of Improving Yourself while you're driving. Good job, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan,
Yep.
you're the last one.
Okay. Well, I am definitely a work in progress. I've made tons of strides in busting procrastination because I put it in my calendar, in my meditation time, what time I'm waking up. And it doesn't always happen, but I'm getting better. I put my workout in there. What I haven't put in there successfully is my power hours. And I think I'm too generous with my coaching time. I'm like, well, I can do Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I need to whittle that down so that I have more working time and actually do the work.
Oh, good one. I will say, having a client support day, having your client support hours locked in and doing power hour, those are 2 most important things, because your power hours to help you find new clients and client support times to support the ones you have. If you got those 2 blocked in there and you are honoring those and you take good care of them, like Antoinette was saying, committing to focusing on the boulders. If you make those 2 boulders non-negotiable, man, that's going to go a long way for you in having better impact on people and having more balance in your life. So congratulations, you guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys all had fun and you got some good ideas. take your time, go through this. If you need to spend a little more time on your calendar, working out your blocks, do it. Bring it to your mentor. If you need some coaching and some tips, they'll be happy to do that. And let's go take control of our lives. If you take control of your calendar and your priorities, you can take control of your entire life. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Absolutely.